On today's show, we have the founder and CEO of RedX. They are making the real estate market liquid. To find out how, find out more about this amazing founder. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Silicon Valley Successes. We interview experts and entrepreneurs to give the world access to the knowledge and experience that is here in Silicon Valley. Our mission is to create opportunities for those who seek them and help you to become the next Silicon Valley success.
John, welcome to Silicon Valley Successes. Now, when I found out about your startup, I was absolutely blown away of what you're doing. And when I got to know you, well, I was also very, very impressed. So could you tell the audience where you are in your startup journey?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Sean.
Oh, it's our honor, trust me. But please, once everyone hears what you're doing, they'll know that we're the ones that it's our honor.
So we're a week from launching our demo. We're deploying our platform the first week of January, and we got a solid team, about 11 people right now.
Okay.
And it's going well.
But tell me, what is your platform gonna do?
Okay, yeah. So we're basically a command center for real estate investing, and we're creating liquidity in the real estate market using blockchain.
Really?
Yeah.
So how are you creating liquidity using blockchain? And what is blockchain?
Yeah, so blockchain's pretty simple. It's up to this point, fairly recently in history, digital assets could be copied infinitely. You know, that's what makes Silicon Valley so powerful. You know, is the infinite reproducibility of digital assets, and blockchain is simply assets that can't be reproduced. So digital things that are non-reproducible. They're unique.
So if I have something, you can't just cut and paste or copy it.
No, yeah. Blockchain uses public-private key cryptography, which is actually
a lot of jargon there.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but it's the same thing that email works on. Based on the same thing, and so that was very foreign at one point in time, and now we don't think twice about email. And now, up to this point in history, we've basically just created digital assets randomly. Bitcoin, Ethereum.
So Bitcoin, Ethereum, that's blockchain.
It is. Well, no, it's not It is based on blockchain, but it's a cryptocurrency. So that's when you create something that's an asset is when it has some scarcity to it.
Okay.
And so, but these are up to this point in history. Blockchain or Bitcoin has had no real connection to the tangible world, to real objects in our day-to-day lives. But this is the year of the security token, and so now we're connecting ownership in tangible objects to the blockchain.
So there's a word right there, token, security token. I'm sorry that we have to go nitty-gritty, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening and watching that have no idea.
Yeah.
Security token, what is it?
Yeah, just a security token represents ownership in something. So it's a contract, and it represents debt or equity generally. Okay. And so if you can securitize one thing, you can really securitize anything. There's about 8 companies. We might be the 9th company in the world that can securitize an asset for trade. So that allows, what we're focusing on is using that for real estate, which is generally you buy real estate, it's a great investment, but you can't get out of it. You're stuck there for long periods of time, generally, as a rule.
So you're taking this technology blockchain and this security token, which is a contract, and using that to put real estate, which is a hard asset, into security tokens, and then people are able to trade those just like,
stocks.
I don't want to say stock, like stocks?
Absolutely.
That easy?
Yeah, so the word security, this is a stock or a bond is a security. And so in the United States, these tokens are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the same way that anything that's trading on the stock market is. So because they're fundamentally the same.
So using your technology, I own say, a huge apartment complex. I would be able to, instead of selling the whole building, I could sell security tokens to people, and they could buy percentages of this apartment complex, and then based on the value of the apartment complex, those security tokens value would also change?
Yeah, absolutely. So now your apartment building operates the same way that some factory owned by a company operates. So your asset is held within a legal entity, just the way any company operates here, in the Valley, and the same way that a company does an IPO, an initial public offering, and begins to trade on the stock market at some point in its development when it reaches a certain size. You can do the same thing with real estate of a certain size.
Wow. Yeah. No, this sounds amazing, but let's go back. What brought you to this company, wanting to form it? What were you doing before?
Yeah, so I was a U.S. Army officer. I was an Army Ranger and a sapper, an explosives expert, and
wow.
It's sort of, there's some parallels. It's fundamentally team leadership under stress, under in an uncertain operating environment, which is that's what you see a lot of. That's the operating in an uncertain environment is really, in my mind, what the Valley is all about. That's sort of the ethos that guides this Valley, and probably was written about most notably in Lean Startup, the principle of, in order to find something out, sometimes we have to do it. You see a lot of that going on in the Valley when you're breaking new ground. And same thing goes in the military, so there was some parallels.
So you're in the military, you're an Army Ranger, explosives, deadly, high stress environment, and then you decided, okay, I'm gonna start RedX, or was there something in between there?
Yeah, I started an impact investment company, did that, lived in Africa for a little while, another high stress environment, helping small businesses grow. Sort of challenged myself to get into programming, to become a good quantitative problem solver, and through force of will, eventually succeeded. Big believer in you can learn anything if you are not willing to give up.
So is this your first company then?
This is like my fourth.
Your fourth?
Yeah.
What was the one before this?
One before this was Sapper Coding. So I was doing mobile app development in the Valley.
So you worked with a lot of startups?
I did, yeah. About 2 a day would call me, looking for, after their software engineers would leave, they'll call around looking for somebody to build their product.
So then what problems talking startups, what were the most common problems you saw startups facing?
Yeah, I think, working with software companies, one of the big problems was that they had developed their product in a poor way.
What do you mean
made
by that?
Poor choices. Usually they didn't understand what their engineers were doing.
Okay.
One of the reasons I wanted to learn, become a software engineer myself, so that you can understand the product and see what's going on behind the scenes. You always have to understand all aspects of your company to as much as you can.
So would you say, to have a technology startup, the founders, one or both, or if there's three, they should all know a little bit about coding?
Yeah, I think you want to understand some of the inner workings of your product as much as, and you definitely want to have someone that you can trust who's going to get in there because it's like mold grows in the dark. Yeah, if you don't keep an eye on what's going on, people will take advantage of you. Blockchain's a prime example. Is so few people understand the technology that if you don't understand the technology, you will get in trouble pretty quickly because
you kind of set up a scary scenario there.
Yeah, you just have to understand what you're doing, I would say. I also think that the Valley is
So when you're saying the Valley, you mean Silicon Valley for everyone?
That's right. Yeah, Silicon Valley. And I would say one of the things that has made this Valley so powerful is the you just do a lot of intensive problem solving as a software engineer, and that pretty much applies. That'll help you in all aspects of business to be good at solving problems.
Interesting. So for your company right now, the blockchain company that you're creating, how did you go about building your team?
Yeah, so I started with some computer scientists, ultimately.
What was the vetting process for them? I mean, how did you recruit these guys when you haven't raised funding yet? And I'm guessing you don't have millions and millions in the bank to recruit these people away from Google and Facebook. How did you attract them?
Yeah, my co-founder turned down his dream job at Google to do this with me, and he said, he called me up, he said, you know, as a blockchain developer, I go around to all the blockchain companies, and I believe that vision is something you need to have a successful startup, and I think you have vision, and I'm going to leave my opportunities. He offered GE at Google.
Wow.
I'm going to work with you. So that meant a lot to me. That's exactly what you want to hear, is somebody who's going to just turn it all else away and go to bat for you and work for free. I mean, that's
so instead of selling money, you sold the vision to him.
Yeah. I was lucky enough that he believed in me, and he believed in what we were doing.
What about the rest of the team? Is everyone on the team the same way? You're selling them the vision, or did you have relations?
Sometimes it requires money. That helps too.
That's a simple solution.
Yeah, you could try selling vision, but money talks as well.
For recruiting to your team, do you have to pay them market price then? Or if you have that dream, that vision, and they see an upside in the future, can you give them less than market rate?
Yeah, if you, I think that can be an important tool for startups. You sort of, you can pay, the saying is you can pay $10,000 or $100,000 for the same piece of software depending on who you talk to and who you are, you know. And I think that's very true. And being a mobile app developer, working with lots of other development companies, I was able to get, I'm working, I've got a team offshore, I've got a team onshore, got much below even the cost of working with them, back-ending costs, post-funding. That can be a useful tool. If somebody's not willing to do that for you when you're at a very, very early stage, it suggests they don't really believe in your vision necessarily. You kind of want somebody who says, I believe that you're going to make it, so I'm going to put some of my costs on the back end, because then they're really invested. They need you to succeed, or else they don't get paid. You know.
Interesting. So they'll actually waiver their fee and help you out in anticipation of you raising money later on.
Yeah. I'm working with a Stanford PhD corporate securities attorney. He's $700 an hour, and he a lot of his fees are back-ended. Second quarter of 2019, or when I take $500,000 of funding. So, yeah, that makes a big difference.
So when you sat down with this lawyer, what was that conversation like for the negotiating the terms? Did you say, hey, do you have any standard discounts or fee structures for someone in my situation, or was it a negotiation with them?
Yeah, I mean, you start out by telling about the product, and one thing I've read before, and I think it's probably true, is that the likelihood, someone's opinion of an idea is almost exactly equal to the enthusiasm of the person who's telling them about it, and it's because we don't hide what we actually think about things that well. Yeah. And so I told him about it, and then he's like, wow, yeah, I get this. And then it was, what do you think? Can you do all this for me? And by the way, can I pay you after I get funding? And he's like, yeah. That's how the conversation went.
So who else did you add to your team? So you said a lawyer, an engineer. Who else creates the key team? Yeah,
the key team. One of the real key players was a realtor. She'd been a top Silicon Valley realtor for 20 years. Knew everyone in the valley because she'd been selling them their homes. A 15-minute, perfunctory meeting turned into a 3-hour meeting.
Wow.
And she said, I feel like I've been looking for this for 20 years. She had a computer science background.
Okay.
And now, she said, I want to invest, and then it was, I also want to work for the company. And
So you found your first investor at the same time as finding another key member.
yeah, absolutely. And you get that occasionally where these short meetings, suddenly someone gets it. And then had that the other day with a real estate developer with a Stanford computer science background. A short meeting turned into a long meeting, and he said, why don't you move into our offices and securitize my commercial real estate assets? And
wow,
it's a good deal, for a startup, that's for sure.
When coming to the Valley, did you expect things to move this quickly? And do you think it would move this quickly if you're anyplace else?
I think potentially, but I wouldn't say the rest of the world isn't as good as the Valley necessarily. But it does open up a lot of opportunities. The people who are here, the things they're doing, and I had no idea, and I couldn't possibly have predicted the series of events that would take me to where I am. So it's uncertainty. Yeah.
Just arriving in the Valley, what would you recommend for other startup founders that come here, how to build out their network quickly or get these resources they need for their startup?
Yeah, I think you go and you talk to people and you accrue as much knowledge as you can as quickly as possible. I probably spent the first 8 months in the Valley programming 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just learning as rapidly as possible and meeting people as rapidly as possible, and continually seeking out the most interesting things I could find until I made my way here over the course of a couple of companies.
Wow. So how many years have you been in the Valley? Just one?
Almost exactly 1 year.
Wow. So what does next year look like for you then?
Another uncertain thing, but you can't. It's like seeing beyond the event horizon. The singularity. You can't possibly know what's going to happen, but you sort of that you're going to roll with the punches. I think that's sort of key to Valley life. Is things are going to happen, and you just know that you're going to respond as quickly as you can to them and do absolutely is the best thing you can, because you don't know exactly that thing that will take you over to the edge to success. You won't know when you cross the line, but you're going to move as fast as you can in the hopes that you will have crossed the line.
So if things are always moving that quickly, how do you project plan anything?
Yeah, I mean it's just running a military operation. I'm going to be as diligent as I can. I'm going to set the plan as well as I can, but at the same time, I'm going to recognize that I'm going to be okay with the unknowns and the uncertainty of it. And problems crop up. You don't know how you're going to solve that problem, but you have this belief that you're going to find a way because you have to.
So to find out more information on how you can solve problems, visit SiliconValleySuccesses.com or visit us on Facebook or LinkedIn. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I know a lot of social media, but we want you to be able to access us anywhere in the world, anytime. So let's go back to our guest, John. So with all this changing all the time, does that take a toll on your nerves at all?
Yeah, I definitely feel the stress. But you go through, military Army Ranger school prepared me well for this, because there you're freezing, they're deliberately starving you, and they're giving you 2 hours of sleep a night. They're creating combat conditions artificially, and so you go through that and you realize, okay, you can handle an immense amount of stress, and it's not pleasant, but you're not going to die.
So what's easier, Army Ranger School or being a startup founder?
It's a lot easier being a startup founder.
Oh.
I always think, what'd you think, the other way around?
I was hoping you were going to say the other, but yeah.
No,
I mean, realistically,
at the end of the day, it's California. The weather's beautiful almost every single day, and I just think, I'm like, wow, this is really stressed. And I think, wow, I've got enough to eat. I can sleep if I want to. No one's yelling at me, and I'm warm enough. It's not that bad, honestly. I'm always happy.
Sounds good. So right now, before you met your first investor, I'm guessing you had to get a pitch deck ready and some presentation material. How'd you go about doing that? What information do investors in that want to hear from a startup founder?
Well, Sean, you prepared me to give my pitch, and you criticized my pitch deck a lot. So
Everyone
you
at home,
taught
you
me.
heard this.
You want me to give you your advice, I think, which is good advice. Yeah, you have to be clear, problem, solution. You need to describe the market. It's a formula like a mission plan, and there's logic behind what people want to know. You're going to give them the relevant information, and you just have. It's common sense when you think about it. It's just best practices.
In your presentation, how much are you selling the company? How much are you selling yourself?
Well, they say in the Valley they invest in people, not ideas, and that's I think it's a combination. You have to have both. You can work on it. You see this people working on something that's just not maybe a great idea, but if you can't sell it, it doesn't matter. 9 out of 10 products fail for lack of market. So, I think you need to have a team that's going to be agile and solve these problems, because that's the only, you throw elite soldiers into the backcountry, into the enemy territory, and they know they're going to solve the problem that arises because they're that good. And so you want to have that team that's that good that will find a way.
So earlier when we were talking, you'd mentioned you had your team. You had some overseas and some here.
Yeah.
What's the difficulty or difference between having an overseas development team and a team here? Why did you do that? What are the benefits, disadvantages, and are you planning on using that for your current startup?
Yeah. I think that offshore is an interesting topic because you sort of intrinsically the value proposition is obvious. So a software engineer in the Valley makes $140,000 on average among specialized technology stacks. More experience, we're talking $200,000. Whereas offshore, you might get a guy who's got 6 years of experience who's making $5-10 an hour. But
wow.
The thing is that bad code, it's easier to build from scratch than to build on top of bad code. I get these projects that the founders are convinced that we put all this money and time and we love our engineer. Well, I'm sorry, but he didn't know what he was doing. Unfortunately, it's easier to start again,
Wow.
because so that you see that a lot. And so doing offshore right is very hard. You have to, if you lose your software engineers partway through a project, really bad, because it's very hard to pick up someone else's. It's like looking inside their brain without a map. It's it can be harder. Yeah, it can take as long to understand it as it does to just write it yourself.
We might have to get you on the show again just to talk about outsourced teams.
Yeah, mobile app, development at a reasonable cost is a whole topic in and of itself.
So to recap on everything we've talked about your past being an Army Ranger and how that's a little bit more difficult than sunny California. We've talked about selling that vision when either recruiting or talking to investors. We talked about how coincidence, your first investor might come just from a meeting, just a conversation. The importance of being adaptable and being able to roll with the punches, and how founders should know about their product. If it's a technological project, they should probably have some development skills. What are we missing?
I think that when I look for like team members, I want somebody who's going to work 15 hours a day, who's going to work like I do, or at least something as close to that as I can get. And the value of that is, like, you figure that's important for a startup team. You better be willing to work hard, because somebody who's working like that, they say, I remember reading this in like Elon Musk's biography, is a real workaholic engineer. He can do the work of 11 people because he doesn't have to explain anything, and he knows the thing inside and out, and it's like this snowball that results in somebody who is equal to 11 guys. And so you can have just a couple of people, and it's easier to communicate among them. And if they're totally dedicated, that's how you get off the ground. You can do the work of 30 people with just a couple. So.
I listened to the Elon Musk biography, and he took a vacation that he almost died from it because he got, I think it was dysentery or malaria or something like that. Yeah. So that was his lesson learned: never take a break.
Yeah, so. It's a good lesson. I don't believe in that.
So with that being said, if we were across the table from each other, what would be the best advice you could give another startup founder? From all your experience over this last year in Silicon Valley.
Interesting. Yeah, here's what it is. I know what it is. It's a company is just a confluence of contracts. And so I think one of the biggest realizations I had is, you're on my board of advisors, you get a bunch of people who are, you're going to build out those contracts as rapidly as you can. A human being is just a confluence of contracts, all those social contracts we have with other people. So, the CEO he's a super person because he is not just himself, he's getting advice from Sean Flynn and 10 other real experts. And so that's how you don't need to make all decisions yourself, but you have to find the people, the absolute best people you can, and get them into the company, get them involved just a couple hours a week, because they might know the answer right away, and that can save you months.
Wow, that's some amazing advice.
Thank you.
Yeah. What does your family think of you being this startup founder? Would they have preferred you work at, let's say, Chevron?
And when my dad said, where are you still applying to business school? I'm like, no. So yeah, be prepared for that. My co-founder is like, well, my parents, they like me to go to, what about Google, And I said, forget about your parents. You're a man. It's like, you're starting a company. We got something here, And so sometimes you just have to go your own way, because you know that you're willing to bet that you're right. That's what it's all about. I'm a rock climber. At some point, you're above your last piece of protection. You have no choice. If you go any farther, you either have to go back, or you're going to bet that you're going to make it, because you can't fall anymore.
Wow.
And so you're going to have to bet. I think that's real entrepreneurship, is when you go past the point where you just have to succeed. That's when it gets really interesting. I love that.
Yeah, I'm going to take that quote. We're going to put that on your media package. But John, question for you. Tell the audience, summarize again what you're working on, tell them who you are, and tell them how they can reach you. And if there's any introductions or anyone out there watching, who you'd want to meet.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're creating a real estate investor and a developer can go onto a platform and they can build a diversified portfolio. They can do high risk stuff like house flips, where they can make 20-25% return with a risk of failure, and they can simultaneously buy into big commercial real estate projects that have been, generally illiquid and with a high buy-in, like $50,000, but reliable, fairly safe, and so and that's going to be really valuable.
How can people reach you?
They can reach me at John, John, at RedX.com, RETTEX, and they should check out RedX.com to get onto our platform.
Great, John. Thank you guys for visiting or watching us in Silicon Valley Successes, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you from all of us at Silicon Valley Successes. We hope you found the information presented today useful in your path to success. For further information on accessing the resources in Silicon Valley, you may visit us on the web at siliconvalleysuccesses.com, on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you. And remember, we want to help you in your journey to become the next success.